Talented observers Rasmus Anderson and Southampton's talent factory can be the perfect combination. Ever heard the boiling frog apologue? The story goes that if you were to place a frog in a pot of boiling water, it would immediately jump out to save its life. Yet if you were to slowly increase the temperature, it would be unaware of the danger and the frog would die. The idea is, of course, a myth, but it is used as a metaphor for being alert to danger and the need for change, one often used by the man now in charge of leading Southampton into a new era of possibilities and security. Rasmus Ankersen is co-owner and chief executive of Sport Republic, the newly formed investment company backed by the Serbian entrepreneur Dragan Čolić, which completed a majority takeover of Southampton last week. As with most takeovers, the investment from a largely unknown overseas entrepreneur raises question marks about where the club is heading. But the involvement of Ankersen, the ambitious 38-year-old Dane who helped Brentford reach the promised land of the Premier League despite regularly selling their best players, indicates a perfect match. Fittingly, Southampton are at home to Brentford tomorrow night, in the club's first Premier League match since the takeover. Ankersen was co-director of football at Brentford, along with Phil Giles, with a reputation for a data-driven approach and desire to push boundaries by exploring all possibilities. One day he wandered down the Great West Road from Brentford's offices in West London to GlaxoSmithKline, the manufacturing giant, and ended up in a meeting with the company's executive. He departed with a partnership formed. Matthew Benham, Brentford's owner, trusted Ankersen implicitly with the running of his club. Ankersen split his time between London and Denmark, where Benham appointed him chairman of FC Midtjylland, the Danish club formed in 1999 that reached the Champions League group stage for the first time last season. "We can't win by outspending the competition, so we have to outthink them," Ankersen said. In 2004, he helped set up Scandinavia's first football academy, from which Simon Kjær, the AC Milan defender who captains Denmark, was among the early graduates. Midtjylland were one of the first clubs to embrace data in recruitment and training, as well as employing a full-time throw-in coach, now increasingly common across European football. Midtjylland focused on set pieces and became by far the most effective team on the continent when it came to scoring from corners, throw-ins and free kicks. At Brentford, the model was identifying promising young players with the potential to sell them on for significant profit. The record is remarkable. Aston Villa bought Ollie Watkins for £33 million 3 years after Brentford signed him for £1.8 million from Exeter City. Saeed Benrahma was sold to West Ham United for a £27.3 million profit 2.5 years after joining from Nice. Neil Maupay came from Saint Etienne for £1.6 million 2 years before Brighton Hove Albion paid £20 million for him. And still Brentford managed to progress, promoted to the Premier League last summer with Ivan Toney, bought from Peterborough United for £5 million, scoring the goals that have, surely, sent his value rocketing. Southampton's story is similar, with Virgil van Dijk, Sadio Mane, Luke Shaw and Callum Chambers among the alumni that lined the club's pockets and made St Mary's an attractive destination for young players, though profits from such sales have dried up in recent years. They have very carefully looked at what has happened here in the past few years and have seen we have a clear strategy, a clear plan of how we want to develop this club, not doing stupid things, with big targets, and create value to keep the club healthy, Ralph Hasenhüttl, the Southampton manager, said. The search for a new owner had been long and arduous, 2 years in the making with a few false dawns. Gao Jixing, who had an 80% stake, was not a bad owner but one with his hands tied. Changes to Chinese investment law in the weeks after Gao completed his takeover in August 2017 limited his financial support. Such parameters added pressure. Hasenhüttl, the manager since December 2018, has spoken of the increasing difficulty of competing in the Premier League year on year, with the club finishing in the bottom half of the table in the season since Gao's takeover. The change at St Mary's will not be as drastic as the one unfolding at St James Park after Newcastle United's takeover by mega-rich Saudi investors in October. Southampton believes Sport Republic's investment will simply allow them to re-establish and then enhance their reputation as a breeding ground for future stars. In the past, it was very often that we first had to sell players before we could sign new players because we had no chance to get them earlier, Hasenhüttl said. This will change now, massively, but it doesn't mean we change our behavior and go to the market to buy everything around and available. That doesn't make any sense. We want to pick the Livramentos, the brooches that are around. This new owner gives us the chance to get these guys earlier. Ankersen and Henrik Kraft, the chairman of Sport Republic, are planning for Southampton to be the lead club in a stable that could eventually include at least 4 other teams. Hasenhüttl met them last Wednesday for the first time and spoke at length about the philosophy, with his history offering experience to the model. Hasenhüttl, 54, was part of the Red Bull franchise, joining Southampton from RB Leipzig, where players were developed through their Austrian sister club, Red Bull Salzburg. Naby Keita, of Liverpool, and Dayot Upamecano, the Bayern Munich defender, were brought through the system and sold for huge profit. Chelsea's Timo Werner and Liverpool's Ibrahima Konate also generated huge sums after being sold by Leipzig, the top club of the franchise. They were all my players and we have signed them, sometimes from Salzburg, sometimes from other German or French clubs, young signing first or second professional contract, and going with us to a very good development time and ending up in one of the biggest clubs in Europe, Hasenhüttl said. This is a big advantage to sign players you have tested before with your football philosophy, that you can see if they're fitting through this football philosophy or not. Optimism is high on the South Coast. Southampton have hopped out of the pot and, if Ankersen's history is anything to go by, into a bright new era.